Hi there, my name's Ben, and I like to read. Today, we're going to be reviewing a book by Paul Neilan, which is Apathy and Other Small Victories. So this is a fiction book. Essentially, it follows our protagonist by the name of Shane, and he has recently moved to a new city. He's kind of a drifter, doesn't really know what he wants to do with his life. He has a proclivity for stealing salt shakers and salt packets for some reason. He's one of those very odd individuals, to say the least. However, he ends up in this new city, meets a cob salad of characters, namely his neighbor, who seems to be, very, gothish, and has a bunch of piercings, everything like that. Very sort of quote unquote heavy metal, but has this disarmingly small chihuahua. Who's also dressed in choker collars and everything like that. There's his landlord's wife, who he is sort of coerced into having a sexual relationship with, and he'll get a discount on his rent. There's this, really, really ambitious corporate ladder climber. Her name's Gwen, and they meet one night at a bar. And she automatically assumes that, they're dating now, gets him a job, even though he's completely, not for it. But I think the main, or I should say the primary supporting character is his dentist's assistant. She's deaf, and Shane knows a little bit of sign language, so they build a little bit of rapport that way. But anyway, the crux of the story is that this deaf dental assistant ends up dead, and this story, it begins essentially with Shane being accosted by these two detectives and brought in for an interrogation to determine, because he's a suspect in her death, so essentially he has to clear his name, even though he's completely apathetic to essentially his whole life and everything else. I have to say, this was suggested to me when I was back in high school by a colleague of mine when I was working a part-time job. I was in sort of a very, at that young age, you're fairly optimistic about a lot of things. This one was great. It was because it took me completely off guard. It taught me. I'd always thought of apathy as something to be, kind of depressing and everything, but I mean, Paul Neilan really shows how to make it hilarious. This is you can really get that Shane is sort of a is Paul Neilan in and of himself, because this was his first novel. He has stated, of course, in his foreword that he relied a lot on the support of his family to keep him going through this one, even though he didn't even know what he wanted to do. And yeah, I would say for a first effort, it's really, really funny. It's darkly comedic. The San Francisco Chronicle here, I'll read you their little review by Neil Pollack, I should say. It says, if Camus and Bukowski had written A Confederacy of Dances and combined it with the screenplay for Office Space, it would have been this book. A triumphantly, weirdly hilarious comedy. And I mean, I couldn't put it better myself. It is so absurd that you really just have to sort of, just step back, enjoy the ride. I thought it was really, really, like I said, I thought it was hilarious. This is definitely a great read. I wouldn't necessarily say if you want something light. This is more so if you want, if you want to explore perhaps a different side of, comedy. This is, probably about as good as it gets that, that I've read to a book that has come the closest to make me laugh out loud while I'm reading. And, this is, I have to say, I really, really enjoyed it, particularly because sometimes the truth is, the old cliches, the truth is stranger than fiction. But this one, with the cob salad of characters, everyone has their own, quirks and idiosyncrasies, and just that these general situations, even though it's meant to be completely absurd, there's a surprising amount of realism in this, and I've got no doubt that in a big city, there are people out there who are this is their everyday life. They're coerced into these maybe it's not funny, but I mean, again, you know, they're coerced into, you know, sleeping with their landlord's wife in order to get a discount on the rent, or you know, they have to deal with these you know, with these people that you meet once at a bar, and automatically they think, okay, well, we're dating now. So it's very relatable, and it is very real, despite it being so absurd. So I would definitely recommend it. I would say this, if you want to laugh, if you want like a relatively quick read as well. This is only what's a little over 200 pages. Definitely give it a read. It's a quick little comedy. I wouldn't necessarily say there's anything groundbreaking in there. I wouldn't necessarily say it is as you know, philosophical as Camus, and I wouldn't necessarily say it's, you know, as drunkenly depressing and realistic as Bukowski is, but it's got enough of both to make it so it's got like a little sprinkle of that philosophy or of those ramblings in there where you're just like, huh, okay, this is nice and refreshing. It's not just, you know, this overly saccharine, you know, straight sugar of comedy, which is just like, you know, baiting you to laugh, and eventually, like, you know, the joke gets old anyway. So I would say if you're in the mood for a guilty laugh, a dark laugh, definitely pick this book up. If you've read it before, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. And if you're interested in reading it, of course, pick it up and give it a read. And of course, let me know what you thought in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching.